Good morning everyone, and to our participants, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. A friendly reminder po para sa ating mga participants, always open your camera and mute your microphone. Use your headphones or earphones. Find seats or locations that is well lighted. It is advised to wear business and smart attire. Finish the whole webcon and complete the evaluation for you to get, of course, the certificates. Always direct your concern through personal message on our page or in slide.com provided code or in our email address so we can provide answers on your concern. We have two interesting topics today. The first topic today is emergence of new innovation in teaching and learning process. And of course, 3 o'clock this afternoon is about innovating pedagogy and strategy in teaching in the new normal, the what's in house of making innovation projects. We are live via Zoom video conference, live stream at Palmy YouTube channel and Pies Eye Facebook page. I am Ray Indenture, your moderator and virtual host for today. Welcome to the second day of our National Virtual Training Conference on Digitalization of Education for the 21st Century Researchers and Educators. This National Virtual Training Conference is mainly sponsored by the Philippines Institute of 21st Century Educators Incorporated in collaboration with 11 professional organizations. We are joined today by our participants coming from public and private schools, both elementary, secondary, and higher institutions. Before we start, let us pause first for a moment for a prayer. Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you today. We honor and glorify your most holy name as we ask for forgiveness for our trespasses. Thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to gather virtually for a National Training Conference on Digitalization of Education for the 21st Century Researchers and Educators. May you bless our speaker with the wisdom that they need in order for them to share their knowledge to us. May you also bless us, the participants, with understanding so that we may be able to apply what we have learned from this virtual training conference. This we ask through your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. To everyone listening to our different platforms, so we have here this morning to effectively and responsibly use. You can write questions or insights while our speakers having, of course, his discussion, but expect it to be answered during the question and answer portion. We will be having the open forum after the speaker present presentation. To those who would like to raise question personally, you can ask, you can press the raise hand button. We will notify you ahead if you are recognized. Thank you. This time, we will introduce our speaker this morning. Our speaker is a certified Apple teacher. He is the advocate of e-learning, literacy, teacher education, student affairs program development, and a curriculum development. He is a published researcher and a national trainer with interest on learner-centered instruction and education leaders of the preschool and tertiary levels. Just recently, he published 2 professional education textbooks on technology for teaching and learning and teachers in the community, school, culture, and organizational leadership. He was born in Bacolod City on April 20, 1996. He has a Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English, and currently working on his master's degree at the Lasal University, Manila. Moreover, he is a licensed professional teacher and a member of League of Catechists and Religious Educators of the Philippines, or LCREP, at the Ateneo de Manila University. Having served the academy for almost 5 years in various capacities, namely primary, intermediate, and tertiary teachers. At present, he is connected with Colegio San Agustin Bacolod as a senior high school teacher and college instructor. Aside from being a full-time teacher, he is also a professional lecturer and a licensure examination for teacher in various review center and universities in Bacolod Province, Dumaguete City, and Zamboanga del Norte. Phonology, teaching profession, social dimension of education, and facilitating learning. He is currently the educational consultant of the School of the Oblates of Notre Dame Sisters all over the Philippines, Master Carmeli Academy, and El Ecole Incorporated. His topic this morning is about emergence of new innovation in teaching and learning process. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome our morning speaker, Mr. Paul Ray Mark and Salsag.
Hello, good morning everyone.
Good morning po, sir.
Can I be heard?
Maayong aga.
Can I be heard, everyone? Sige.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Thank you
yes,
very
sir.
much
Clearly hear you,
that
sir.
Introduction. So, maayong aga to all of the people who are attending this conference. No, we are all over the Philippines. I can see participants from Makati, Cotabato, Sorsogon, and Nueva Ecija. So, good, no? Thank you very much, everyone. I hope that you are all safe and healthy as well for the conference for this morning. So for this morning, I will be talking about the emergence of new innovations in the teaching and learning processes. Of course, that we are all caught off guard by this pandemic, and this pandemic, for some, for them, this will just be a year, but it's not. Of course, as we could experience now, that this pandemic will be moving up to 3 to 5 years, and it will not end immediately. So let's try to talk about what are the different practices, and then what are the different perplexities that we do have still. Of course, we are still perplexed of what will happen next. And then the pressing issue now is that the Department of Education started already the pilot testing of the limited face-to-face comes November 15. What will happen after that study? We will be moving into the face-to-face class. And what are the practices that we do now that is working or might not be working? So my talk or my webinar for this morning will focus more into the practices in terms of the teaching and learning process. So we will be moving into the instructional level, at the level of instruction, of what has changed and what can we do and what can we improve in our teaching and learning processes. Let us accept the fact that COVID-19 changed the instructional process. Let us accept that fact that COVID-19 changed the instructional process. That there are a lot of things that we do before that we cannot do now. There are a lot of things that we do in a face-to-face class that is difficult to be transported to the online class or into the distance learning, whatever type of modality you are in. Online modular distance learning, if you are into a modular distance learning, radio-based instruction, TV-based instruction, because these are the types of learning delivery or the types of learning modalities as per stated in the learning continuity plan of the Department of Education. So for this morning, no, allow me to focus my presentation on the emergence of new innovations in the teaching and learning process. But before that, no, allow me to let's have first a little bit of a little bit of an activity, everyone. I will be sending the link through chat. Be able to click that. Be able to click that link through chat, and we will be moving into a presentation, or we will be moving into a polling application online. We call that as Slido. We call that a Slido. So let's try to begin that. Please let me know if it's working. I sent the link again through chat. Okay. Can everyone access the link? Okay, sige. There are no active positive moments. Sige. Let's move now to our first poll, everyone. For those who cannot enter, I am sharing through here in my slide, slido.com, and then you can enter the code, no, 857975. And then you may scan also the QR code if you are using a mobile a laptop, and then you can scan the QR code in your phone if you have a QR code scanner. Okay, sige. Let's begin with our first poll, everyone. So our first poll, everyone, is sorry. Wait for a while, ha. There's something wrong with my ano. Okay. So here, let's begin our first poll. Be able to select Google Meet, Zoom, MS Teams, or Discord. So what is your preferred video conferencing application? So you are into Google Meet, Zoom, MS Teams, or Discord. Okay, so that's the first. So I'm looking into now the results. I hope that the link was also given in the YouTube and then the Facebook Live, so that the participants can also participate. One minute more. So almost of you are into Google Meet. No? Most of you are into Google Meet. So our video conferencing tool that we are using are Google Meet. Sige. So there are 16 participants who participated. Okay? Merong Zoom din, pero 6% lang. Most of us are using Google Meet. Okay, 13%. Okay, sige. Let's move to the next. The second is this, no, face-to-face or distance learning. Okay. The second is face-to-face or distance learning. O meron ng gusto ng distance learning. Before parang ayaw ng distance learning ng online class, but now you are merong mga taong gusto na ng online class. Sige. Let's try to talk about that later. Face-to-face or distance learning. So face-to-face, we have 73%, and then distance learning, 27%. O bumaba yung distance learning, nag 29% na lang. So far we have we have 17 participants. Okay. Sige. Interesting. Sige. Let's move to the next, everyone. Let's move to our next question. Ito. Synchronous or asynchronous? What do you prefer? Synchronous, of course, live class like what we are doing now. And asynchronous are self-paced or pwede both, no? Combination of synchronous and asynchronous. Okay. Both talaga, no? Dapat may synchronous pa rin. Okay. Dapat may synchronous pa rin for all of you. Okay. Sige. Pwede both. Okay. Merong 6% doon, no, sa synchronous. So you prefer synchronous class. I hope others can participate so that you can explore also how Slido is working. The QR code and then the code can be seen in the screen. Okay? Sige. Let's move to the next. Eto. Ano ang go-to tech tool mo ngayong pandemic? What is that computer application or an online tool that you usually open the most? That you usually use the most? That every morning, every afternoon, or every evening, that's the tool that you are using. Okay. Sige. It can be a video conferencing platform. It can be also a learning management system. So, pwedeng LMS, pwedeng video conferencing application. Okay. So, may nagmo-Moodle. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Learning management system is general. There are different brands of learning management system. Okay. Merong nag-Google Drive. Okay. Sige. Nag-Google Classroom. Okay. Sige. Google Meet, Moodle. Madami yung nagagamit ng Google Meet, no? Okay. Yan palagi ang ino-open, yung Google Meet. Okay. Merong yung inilagay yung code natin. Yung inilagay yung code natin. Okay. Merong nagsasabi ng Jibble. I don't know that application. Maybe I can browse that later on if that truly exists. Yung Jibble. Okay. 10 cent QQ? Okay. Sige. Merong gumagamit ng Messenger. Okay. Pang group chat. Okay. Pang group chat. Yung Messenger. Okay. Sige. Pero madami, no? Yung Google Meet, Moodle, and then Google Classroom. So that is your go-to tech tool ngayong pandemic. So most of the teachers, maybe, most of the 21st century teachers who is attending this conference are into Google Classroom, Moodle, and then also with Google Meet. Okay, interesting Sige. There is Mr. I don't know if this is this is male or a female. Miss Maanyo, Jubble is a time tracking and attending app that helps companies stay on top of their team's activities. Oh, good to know, no? Good to know about Jubble. Sige. So teachers, no? That also one thing that we can learn also from each other. Sige. Let's now move to the next poll. I think this is the second to the last. Alin dito ang favorite trend mo? Plantito or plantita? Baking or TikTok? Online shopping? Hashtag budol or nagdalgona coffee ka before? Sige. So, ano dito yung favorite trend mo? Ang bilis Plantito, plantita agad. Sige. Okay. Pero hindi din papatalo si TikTok at si online shopping Ang baking at dalgona coffee parang wala. Parang ano talaga, 21st century yung mga participants ng conference na to. 21st century talaga yung participants ng conference na ito. Okay. 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 So almost of you are into plantito, plantita. And then followed by TikTok. And then online shopping, hashtag Boodle. Okay, sige. So most of you are plantito and plantita today. Sige. So that's the last, everyone. That's the last. So that is a Slido, no? So you can use Slido in using like this, no? Or in having your class kamustahan with your online classes. So you can use that. So that is a polling activity. So that's one thing that is very important now, no? That you need to get to know also your students. So another that I would like to begin, no, for this conference is that let's have first a check-in. Class check-in is also very important. We use I use the term class check-in that the moment that the students entered the class, no, entered your synchronous class, is that you will be doing a check-in activity. So when you do a check-in activity, you can give a prompt, you can give a question so that the students can answer, so that you can begin your discussion. No, so the check-in prompts is not necessarily that it's all about. It can be related to your topic for today. It can be about anything around the sun. Because of course, no, one thing that we need to build also in our online classes is that community, that even though online, we need to humanize that online education through this check-in. So you can also use the word class kamustahan if you want to. So for our class, for our check-in for this morning, be able to give one word. No, it can be an adjective or object that best captures your relationship with technology. Okay, sige. You may use the chat of the Zoom, or you may use also the chat of the Facebook Live or of YouTube Live as well for your responses. Sige, you may now begin writing your responses through through Zoom chat or through the Facebook Live. Okay, sige. Just an adjective ha. through Zoom chat, everyone. Okay. Partner, merong nagsasabi na necessity. To the participants in the YouTube live, you can also key in your answers through chat of the YouTube live. Okay, sige. Meron ditong howdy. Okay. Free shipping voucher, my forever, life, o married na kayo ng technology. sige. I hope everybody can, I hope everybody can participate through chat. Hati tayo shipping, okay? Required. Heavily attached, okay? BFF, sige. Shiny, okay? How about a complicated, time saver? Bet ko din yung complicated. Oo, bet ko din yung complicated. Minsan kasi ganyan complicated. Yung relationship natin sa technology, complicated. Okay. Relevant. And then another adjective is expensive. Oh yes. You need to invest. You need to invest talaga. Business and then interesting. Okay. Daming daming adjective ni Sir Noel ha. Lagi ubos yung budget. Okay. Lagi ubos yung budget. Okay. Costly. Yes. I know. No that you will invest talaga in the technology. Okay. Yung sa akin crush. Si technology parang crush ko. Kala ko kilala ko na, yun pala hindi pa. Charot. Okay. Yan. So that's brain drain also. Sige. Sa YouTube live parang you was not able to key in your responses. You can, no? If you want to so that you can also participate with our Okay. Sige. So that's an example of class check-in. So all of us are in a relationship with technology. Kahit complicated pa yan, no? Kahit MU pa lang or kahit you are in a relationship na married or engaged na, no? So because as teachers now, most especially in this pandemic, we don't have a choice but to use technology. If you try to notice, no, for how many years, no, we teachers are offered to use technology, but we take it for granted, right? We were offered to use technology, but we take it for granted. But we are now in a situation that you don't have a choice, but you cannot teach, you cannot deliver if you do not use technology, right? You cannot deliver without the use of technology. So the COVID-19 pandemic made a push for all of us to integrate technology and to use technology. And both the teacher and the student are the active participants in the use of technology in the instructional process. So, but of course, no, technology is evolving, and as teachers, we continue to adapt, to that evolving trend in terms of technology. Okay, sige. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation with the first two activities that we did a while ago. But later on, we will be having some pause, and then we will be doing a little bit of an activity as well. Sige? Now, let's move to our webinar objectives for this morning. I will only offer two things for everyone. The first is, let's try to reflect, how can we create opportunities for interaction within online learning experiences? How can we create opportunities for interaction? So that's the challenge in terms of learning delivery. That's the challenge in terms of the teaching and learning process now, that it is only the teacher who is interacting. And we forgot that the students do have a voice also. That the students should have a voice also in the classroom. May it be online or it may be in a face-to-face scenario. Also, the second thing that I would like to reflect on, that we would like to achieve for this afternoon, is that how can we design that reduce cognitive load? And that is one of the perennial problems after a year of learning delivery using the distance learning modality, that we failed still to reduce the cognitive load. That students were bombarded a lot, and we tend to forget also the well-being and the social-emotional aspect of the students. That we tend to be too highly academic and we forget to personalize instruction. So these are the two things that I would like to achieve for this morning. Another, what we will do together are three things. Let's look back. What have we learned about teaching during remote learning? What have we learned after a year of teaching and learning amidst COVID-19 pandemic? It's good to ask that, my dear teachers. It's good to ask that, my dear fellow teachers. What has changed? What has changed? What worked and what did not work? So as teachers, no, we need to have this reflective practice in order for us to be excellent. Everyone, sandali lang ha. Of what worked and what did not work. So another thing that we will be doing for this morning is that let's try to learn together what is interactivity and engagement in remote learning. How can we be interactive? How can we promote interactivity? And how can we be engaging in the teaching and learning amidst pandemic? Given this that we are teaching in an online learning modality that is too different to what we are doing before. And build forward. How can I use interactivity and engagement to improve my teaching practice? How can I use interactivity and engagement to improve my teaching practice? Now, let's move to another thing, no, that I will be introducing for this morning. For this morning, we will be using Padlet. Later on, no, we will be using Padlet. So Padlet board is an online visual collaboration tool in eliciting student responses. So for those who cannot access Padlet board, given of internet connectivity problems or internet connectivity issues, you may use the Zoom chat. You may use the Zoom chat in sharing your responses with the questions that can be found in the Padlet board. So you may use the Zoom chat in giving us the responses about the questions that is posted in the Padlet board. So we will be using Padlet board later on with some of our activities as we go along. Okay, so this webinar is not only about me giving an input, but also you know giving a feedback in terms of the different practices that we do have. Given that teaching and learning must always be contextual. No, the teaching and learning must always be contextual. That all of our decisions must be based on the context. It must be based on the needs and interests of our learners and not the needs and interests in general. Okay? Sige. So, for our schedule, I'll be sharing with you two big ideas for this morning. The first big idea is on how to design for interactivity in online learning experiences, which I guess one of the innovations that we need to have in the teaching and learning process. On how can we be interactive in our teaching and learning process. And then the second is how can we design digital content for all learners? On how can we design digital content for all learners? So that's the second big idea that I would like to share with you this morning. Okay? Sige, ready na tayo? I hope we're ready. For though, if we are ready, no, please let me know. Kindly tawag nito, hit the like button of the chat if we are ready. Kindly hit the like button of the chat if we are ready. Sige. So allow me now to move to the first big idea.
on how to design for interactivity in online learning experiences. Katie Martin mentioned this in one of her talks. Katie Martin is one of a curriculum developer and tech integrator in the US. And she published also a book entitled Evolving Education. So Katie Martin mentioned that reflecting about what is or isn't working in your classroom is an important part of growing as an educator. That reflective practice is one of the skill or one of the competency that a teacher need to have. That as teachers, we need to reflect every day of our lives of what is working and what is not. In order for us to be successful, in order for us to deliver quality education, we need to be reflective. Most especially in a learning modality that we're not used of, in a learning modality that we are not trained. Let's always reflect on what is working and what is not. What are the excess and what are the whys of our teaching and learning process? So that's why usually we need to reflect at the end of the day if what are the different learning deliveries that we are doing, if it is effective or not. What are the different techniques and strategies that we implement in our respective classrooms, may it be online or offline, if it is effective or not. So it's still true, It is still true. It may be in a face-to-face class or into online. That reflective practice is very important. That we always ask ourselves of what is working and what is not. If you consider teaching as vocation, that is one very important thing that we do. If you consider teaching as a vocation. But sometimes if you do not consider as a vocation, that is very dangerous to say. That is somewhat challenging to say if we do not consider teaching as a vocation. Because if teaching as a vocation, if you consider teaching as your vocation, you always want to improve whatever you do. You always want that you will be improved in your craft of teaching. That no matter what difficulty will happen, you improve in your craft. You grow in your craft. But if you do not consider teaching as your vocation anymore, so parang dyan tayo mahihirapan. Parang dyan tayo mahihirapan if you do not consider your teaching as a vocation. I know that burnout is there. But if you consider teaching as a lifelong vocation, the burnout will not stay long. Why you are still successful? Why you are still happy? Amidst that there are a lot of difficulties given to you, most especially if you are teaching in the Department of Education, that there are a lot of challenges that we face every day. But reflective practice sometimes will work, giving ourselves a pause of where are we now, and what to continue. Because also tested and proven, and based on my experience, we were overwhelmed with a lot of tasks sometimes. We are overwhelmed with a lot of tasks. Like the moment that your principal will say something to you, your coordinator or master teacher will say something to you, and then may mga bagay pa na hindi mo pa natapos, at dadagdagan naman. Sometimes that overwhelms us. And the moment that we were overwhelmed, we do not know now what to do next. Diba? Hindi na natin alam kung anong gagawin natin. Yung solusyon, hinay-hinay. You pause for a while. You try to process all of these things in your mind. Okay, sige. May mga nagdagdag na gagawin sa akin. Unahin ko muna to. Sometimes it works. Listing what you need to accomplish, it works. And then treating one day at a time will work. Kasi minsan, we try to take note things in general. Alang dami ko pang gagawin. Kung puro lang dami-dami yung gagawin pero hindi mo naman sinisimulan, walang mangyayari. But let's try to treat one day at a time. Kasi minsan what is very difficult in working from home or working amidst pandemic is that we no longer delineate or we no longer give a boundary of working or chores at home. We do no longer give a boundary on that. That for example, okay, lapas na ng 5 p.m. pero nasa laptop ka pa rin. Alas 12 na, you are still working. And that will surely burn you out. That's why one thing that I do know for the past months because of course I'm workaholic so much as well. But I try to train myself that after 5 p.m. I need to turn off my laptop. I need to turn off my laptop after 5 p.m. Beyond 5 p.m., that's my me time already. That's my time already for my family. That's my time already for myself. I can go Netflix, no? So because sometimes we cannot delineate and we will not be effective teachers if we are burned out. We cannot be effective teachers if we are burned out. And the solution to that burnout will not from the Department of Education. The solution to that will not be from the Department of Education. The solution to that is on ourselves. Because whatever the institution is giving to us, wala na tayong magagawa dyan, but the solution will be coming from us on how can you handle these obstacles. Okay? Sige. There are 3 shifts in online learning. I hope that you are aware of this already, no? Face-to-face sessions or weeks. Our classes were divided into weeks that you meet 5 times a day. You meet 4 times a day, 4 times a week rather. But now, no, in online or in a distance learning modality, we were now guided by modules. How many modules that we give? Sir, ano na lang sir yung module na ginigive namin? 3 na lang sir or 4 na lang sir kasi wala kaming bond paper. Hala ka. Wala kaming bond paper, sir. Minsan parang ayaw ko nang magpakita sa mga kilala kong iba dyan kasi may bond paper ka ba? Pa-donate naman. Okay, sige. So, that's one shift, no? That's one shift in teaching and learning that we are no longer guided by different sessions or weeks. Minsan, we have this luxury of time before, but now we don't have this luxury of time in the teaching and learning process. And then, merong mga teachers na nagsasabi sa akin na, sir, for almost a year already, parang hindi kami teacher. Bakit? Ano kayo? Printing press. Kasi nagko-collate, nagpiprint out. Yan lang yung namin, no? It's good, no? Sometimes, no? It's good to reflect on also, no? Our fervor in teaching, that we was not able to do whatever we do before, no? Parang, kasi yan na lang talaga yung ginagawa natin, no? To print out, to collate, to give the modules, and then to distribute, and then to retrieve the modules. So, meron din ako isang school na pinuntahan kasi they will be moving online. They will be moving online after a year of modular distance learning. Sabi ko sa kanila, bakit di na kayo mag-pre-printed module? So, ang sakit-sakit na ng kamay namin, nakaka-stapler. Ang sakit na ng kamay nila, nakaka-stapler. So, hindi na. Dapat sila? They will be now moving into online. Before, knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Our lessons every day are divided into different knowledge, skills, and attitude. Cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. But now, one of the realizations, one of the positive side of moving into distance learning, that we are now into competencies. Competencies is now a cluster of knowledge, skills, and attitude. But it's not only the what of teaching, but competencies on how can the students use that information. So that is very important. The usability of the content that we are giving is very important that the students will know. That how can they use this the moment that they move to the next grade level? How can they use this the moment that they will be moving into senior high school or in college later on? Before, not face-to-face class, we were guided by contact time. That in a week, we need to meet thrice. In a week, we need to meet 5 times a day, 5 times a week. But now, in an online learning modality or in distance learning, we are now guided by what do we call learning time. That we keenly estimate, no? We critically estimate the amount of time that the student will spend in the module that we are giving. So, dapat we are sensitive enough as teachers, no, in estimating the learning time of the students. Hindi na pabara-bara lang yung ginagawa natin. Kasi baka ang dami-daming pinapagawa mo sa estudyante, isang module lang pero 20 yung activity. Naku, maghunos dili ka. hindi lang ikaw yung subject ng estudyante, mayroon siyang 6 na subject pa. Kasi that's one of the thing, no, that the students are tempted, the teachers are tempted to do is just to give out assignment for the sake of giving of assignment itself. Nagbibigay ng assignment, 20, 30. Meron akong nakitang isang post sa Facebook ng isang nanay, ng isang tatay. Sabi niya, kahit ako hindi ko alam mag-comparative study ng COVID cases sa Pilipinas. Alam niyo kung ano yung anak niya? Grade 3. Yung assignment, make a comparative study of the cases of COVID-19 in our city. Starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At the age of grade 3, magko-comparative study ng COVID-19 cases. Ako, my dear teachers, let's try to be practical and let's try to be feasible in terms of the activities that we are giving. Before sa face-to-face, okay lang. Kasi kahit may mga subject ka na hindi mo natapos, pwede mo pang ituro. 'Di ba? Kasi minsan, for example, Monday, okay class, copy the board. Copy the board. Okay class, copy the board. A week before na ng exam, Friday, pagka Monday, exam na. Ay, aligaga ka? Sandali lang. Pupunta ako sa classroom kasi magtuturo ako kasi exam na next week. May isinama ako sa test na hindi ko pa na-i-discuss. Discuss ka mula 7:30 hanggang alas 12. Pagdating sa faculty room, naku, pagod na pagod ako, wala akong boses. Bakit? Nag-discuss ako kasi exam na next week. Sino nang sabi sa'yo? Sino nang sabi na pagurin mo yung sarili mo? Before we are doing that, I know many of us are doing that. But in this time of online distance learning, we can no longer do that because our time is limited and then the competency is so many. The competency is so many and the time is limited. So that's why how we plan our instruction is very important, is very crucial in the teaching and learning amidst the pandemic. These are the challenges in online distance learning according to the UNESCO ICT competency framework. The first challenge is poor content. The teacher do not know where to look for the content. So what the teacher is doing is to screenshot and to take pictures of the book. And then given that the students are not reader, they do not read. They don't like voluminous reading material. Meron akong isang school na pinuntahan, sir, ang sakit-sakit ng kamay namin ng kaka-type sa keyboard ng Florante at Laura at Ibong Adarna. Sino nagsabi sa iyo na i-type mong Florante at Laura at Ibong Adarna sa module mo? Yung module, 50 pages a week. Ay naku, 50 pages a week yung average ha. No, 50 times mo pa sa 8. Ako estudyante, nasuko na ako, magbibigti na ako kapag ganyan. Every week ganyan yung atupagin ko. So most of our decisions sometimes in terms of the instruction were not developmentally appropriate and not based on the needs and interests of the students. Do the students read in a face-to-face class? The moment that you tell them, open the book on page this and then you read this. Maybe some, but not all. The moment that it's voluminous reading, they will not read. The second is little collaborative instruction. Okay, class, listen, we will begin our synchronous class. Our lesson for today is about verb. Miss, question. Wag question kasi 1 hour lang yung synchronous class. Wala nang question, makinig ka. There is no longer, wala nang interaction. Wala nang interaction na nangyayari. The students do not have a voice already because you are in a hurry to finish the content. What is content if the students did not learn? That's why, as teachers, sometimes we treat talking as teaching. For us, the moment that we talk, we teach. But it's not. Because listening is not also learning. It is not an assurance that the students are there. They are also learning. It is not an assurance that they are there with you. They're learning. Magyaw-yaw ka. Magsige ka. Mag-ano ka dyan. Magsige ka. Tawag nito. Nagagalit ikaw mula sa simula ng synchronous class hanggang sa end ng synchronous class, nagagalit ka. Yun pala, yung estudyante mo doon nasa labas, nagbabasketball. Inopen lang yung yung Google Meet pala yun ba? Oh, ikaw ano? Ikaw, Salsag, di ka nakikinig. Ano ginagawa mo? Di ka nagpapas ng mga module. Hala, walang may nagsasagot sa iyo kasi naka-off cam. Yun pala, nag-basketball sa labas. That's why we need to design strategies that how can we catch attention. And in synchronous class, do not do lecture. Do not do lecture in synchronous class. Kasi minsan, nagpe-paper dance ka dyan, sa stop song ka sa synchronous class. Minsan, kung ano-ano nang yung mukha mo sa synchronous class, the moment that you have unstable internet connection. Another is inconsistent instruction. Sometimes we do not know how to give instruction. So, minsan, yung mga estudyante tatanong, Sir, paano gagawin to, sir? Paano to gagawin? Magbasa ka ulit ng instruction, nandyan lang yan. Intindihin mo. Sabi ng estudyante, hindi ko nga maintindihan. Bakit iintindihin ko? So, that's one thing, no? One of the problem with us, no? Inconsistent instruction. And the deadlines in the learning module that we are giving is also very important. Kasi minsan, the students are stressed out because of the inconsistent instruction that we are giving. Like for example, today, Saturday, you will be giving an assignment. Monday, deadline agad. Paano na yung weekend ng bata? That's why we need to be conscious also in terms of the workload that we are giving to the students. Or you make it an institutional policy. You make it an institutional policy in terms of the giving out of deadlines, in terms also of the submission of the students, the amount of time, no? That's why estimation of the learning time is very important. Ito, poor instructor preparation. Minsan, no, may mga teachers na, ayaw ko na magturo ng online, mag-early retirement ako next year. Kasi di ko alam yung mga technology na yan. So, ko na ako. Meron akong isang school na I gave out a training last year, no? And then, yung madre, pumunta sa akin, sabi niya, Sir, di na ako magturo, sir, kay di ko naman alam yung mga technology na yan kasi madre ako. Si sister. Sabi ko, sister, try lang natin. But you know what? I am proud with that without religious nun. Because out of the millennial participants in that training, sister did a good job in terms of the design and development of her online learning module. That's why it's not an assurance that you are millennial. You can be effective in terms of teaching and learning in the learning delivery in an online modality. It's not an assurance that you are millennial, you can be good. Because nowadays there are also a lot of millennial students who do not excel in the use of technology. And there are also boomers who excel in online class. Who excel in an online class. That's why age is not an assurance. And also limited technical knowledge. Di ba? Minsan nangyayari yan sa isang faculty room kapag sabay-sabay kayo nag-online class. Alaka. Nawala yung ginagawa ko dito. At tulungan mo nga ako kung nasaan na. Ay anak, miss, na-minimize mo lang. Yung akala mo parang may sunog na. Limited technical knowledge. O minsan yan eh. Sabi ko nga sa mga tinitrain ko minsan, sabi ko, kapag di mo alam gamitin yung Google Meet at Zoom, pindutin mo lahat yan, malalaman mo kung anong mangyayari. Pindutin mo lahat, you explore on your own so that you can know how these buttons work. Diba? So, don't practice when there is students already, of course. Don't practice when the students are already, of course. Kasi baka maglalagay ka na dyan ng mga ng mga virtual background or ng ng mga tawag nito. Maglagay ka na ng mga emojis dyan. So, these are the challenges. But how can we overcome these challenges? Strategic management in online teaching. We know strategic thinking. No? We know strategic thinking in educational management. We have this strategic thinking. But what is this strategic thinking? When we talk about strategic thinking, for example, I myself do have a problem in my classroom. I have a problem. Miss Ivy and Sir Bernie can give a solution, but their solution contributed to me might not work. Because it must be based on context. That is strategic thinking. That we have one problem, but in that problem, there are so many solutions. But there is only one solution that will fit in our context. That's why we need to apply strategic management in online teaching. How do we manage that task? Both the teaching task and the learning task of the students. How do we manage the process? The teaching processes and then the learning processes that is working on every day of our lives in our virtual classrooms. So let's try to use this strategic management on how can we manage the task and on how can we manage the processes that happen in our online classroom. This is a new word for everyone. Utagogy. O, diba? New word yan, no? Utagogy. So that is self-leading. What is that? That learners now are at the center. No, that the students now are self-determined. You are no longer there with them 7 times a day, 7 times a week. You are no longer there with them 7 times a week. Because the learners now are self-paced, learning on their own at the comforts of their home. That's why you need to make your instruction understandable or comprehensible to the students so that you will not be bombarded by a lot of questions. Minsan yan yung nagpapagalit sa akin. Minsan, pinapagalitan ko din yung sarili ko kasi baka there's something wrong naman sa instruction ko, no? Bakit ang dami namang tanong? Minsan, ang daming tanong ng mga estudyante. Sa messenger, ang daming tanong. Diyos ko, yun nga, hindi ako nag-accept sa messenger ng mga estudyante. We use our learning management system. All of the questions will be all in the learning management system. Do not ask a question in my messenger and do not expect a reply because I will not make a reply. That's why you need to delineate your personal life and your work life. Kasi maiirita ka, 12:00 ng gabi may mag-chat-chat sa'yo, Miss, paano mag-answer sa module, Miss? Uy, naku, 12:00 ng gabi, tatanong kung paano mag-answer sa module. So, wala ka ng peace of mind if that is the case. Unlike in the learning management system, you need to let the students know that I am only online and I can only make a reply from 8 o'clock until 5 in the afternoon. Beyond that, wala na. Minsan up to the point sasabihin mo pa nga, please observe lunch break. Minsan sasabihin mo pa, please observe lunch break. Kaya ako minsan, daming tanong. That's why it is a challenge for us teachers on how can we design learning that the students now are self-determined. That they are now learning on their own. Another, eto, syempre alam natin to, no? Yung pedagogy. Pedagogy is child leading, no? Teaching the child, no? Pedagogy. So if pedagogy, that is instructor led. The instructor is the center. That's what we are doing before in a face-to-face class. You imagine grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Whatever you give out to these kids, whatever you teach to these kids, they follow. Diba? Kahit mali pa, ikaw yung tama kasi reyna ka ng classroom. Diba? Sabihin ng, halimbawa, ikaw teacher ka, ang anak mo na grade 1, sasabihin, makita mo sa notebook ng anak mo nga, may mali si teacher. Uy, anak, mali ito yung pinapagawa ng teacher mo, ito yung tama. No? Anong gagawin ng bata? Mami, wag mong palitan kasi magagalit si teacher. Yan talaga yung sabi ni teacher, yan talaga yung tama. Hindi nga, mali nga si teacher. Mami, ikaw na lang magpasok doon. Ayaw ko na pumasok. Kasi whatever that you give out, no? Whatever you instruct to these kids, they follow. That is instructor-led, pedagogical. Pero minsan, we treat the senior high and then the junior high or grade 10 or grade 9, for example, as pedagogical. Much more college. They are no longer that pedagogical. The approach is no longer pedagogical. It's now andragogical. Andragogy. That is now man-leading. That they are now self-regulated. They are now self-directed. And then instructions and learners are at the center. Meaning, you now cooperate with one another. That the source of information is not only the teacher, but also the multifarious experiences of the students. That's also andragogical. Minsan, no? Even us teachers, even us grown-ups already, alam na natin kung anong tama at mali. At minsan, kung ang tinuturo sa atin mali, ayaw mo nang makinig. Yan nga, yan nga yung decision ko palagi. Much better na nasa classroom ako kasi kung anong sasabihin ko sa estudyante, they will immediately follow. If I as a principal or if I as an administrator will give out instruction, nako, meron talagang isa o dalawa. Sino ka na sasabihin mo kami ng ganyan? Sino ka na papagawin mo ako ng ganyan? O diba? That's why when you will become administrators later on, or if you are an administrator now, do not expect that everybody will love you. Do not expect that everybody will like you. Diba? Do not expect that everybody will like you. As well as in teaching in college or in teaching in senior high school, the very important thing or the very first thing that you need to do is to impress them. You need to impress them that you are worthy in that subject, that you are worthy in that subject, that you know what you are teaching. Because if not, surely you will have a difficulty later on. Ano ba to si Mr. Benavides? Di naman alam niya yung tinuturo niya. Di na lang tayo pasok sa klase niya. So that's a very important, no? That's andragogical. So these are the innovations in the teaching and learning process that we need to know. That we are no longer facilitator. We are no longer the dispenser of knowledge, but we are now a facilitator and the designer of the teaching and learning process. Before may chalk ka lang makakapag-klase ka. Diba? Before may chalk ka lang makakapag-klase ka. If you have a chalk, you can immediately discuss. You can immediately conduct the teaching and learning process. But now, laptop, wala ka, mahirap. Internet connection, wala ka, mahirap. Walang pera. if you are teaching now, no, in a private school or in college, don't have laptop, mahirap. If you don't have this, very difficult talaga. That's why investments. I have this one consultancy school nang nangyari is that sabi ng may-ari sa akin, sir, tulungan mo ako, yung mga teachers ko, walang mga laptop. Wala naman akong maibigay na laptop kasi wala na kaming pera. Ilang buwan, walang tawag nito, walang collection yung school kasi because of that pandemic, no, last year. So the finances is bleeding. Isisweldo pa nila. That's why I realized, no, na yung karpentero, may martilyo, may pangpukpok. As a teacher, that is already your armor now in the 21st century. That you need to have these laptops. And if you don't have these laptops, you will not be successful in this 21st century educational landscape. Kasi, yung karpentero, kapag sinabi mo, papagawa ako ng cabinet, ha? Yung karpentero sasabi sa'yo na, may martilyo ka, ma'am, may martilyo ka. Sabi, naku, nagkarpentero ka pa. Sa akin ka maghahanap ng mga ng mga pangpukpok mo. And that is also with teaching. No? That is also true with teaching. So if you try to take a look at the diagram, if pedagogical, it's unidirectional. Okay? If pedagogical, that is unidirectional. But if andragogical, that is multi-directional. Okay? That is now multi-directional. Now, let's try to move now to the e-learning by design. Usually, we can hear this, design and development. No, we can always hear this, design and development. But design is all about our decisions. Every day of our lives, we are making decisions. And then the moment that you decide, that is where you develop. That is where construction will happen. So design or decisions, development are the construction. So before you plan your lesson, you need to make a decision first. And there are a lot of decisions that we do in our teaching and learning process. And then that you will construct the learning modules that you're giving out. But we have a problem in this online teaching. That whatever you want to happen, there is a gap. This is according to the Moore's transactional distance theory. The teacher's intent and then the student's experience, there is a gap. Because there is a gap, for what reason? For what reason that there is a gap in the relationship of the teacher and of the student? There is a gap because of this absence of the teacher. There is a gap because of this absence of the teacher. So that's why before we design modules, but now you need to design learning experiences. Before we design modules, but now we need to design learning experiences. That the students are experiencing a task, not only reading a material. That the student is doing something, not only listening to you. Modules must be experiential. Modules must not contain voluminous reading material, but it must be experiential. This was hinged from the user experience coupled with instructional design, that learning experience design looks at context and reality. That you look on the context and reality of the students. That's why you always begin, You always begin on the fact that what are the available resources of my students? What are the available resources of my students? And you begin there. Do not be too ideal. Do not be too ideal that the students can make a video. Do not be too ideal because some of the students don't have the resources on how to make a video. Do not be too ideal to ask them to make a poster because not all students do have a laptop. Do not be too ideal to ask them to edit a picture, edit a video because not all do have a laptop. Not all do have the application to do it. Not all do have the stable internet connection. So to make your teaching and learning successful, always based on the context and reality of the students. We need always to be adaptive in terms of the learning delivery that we are giving. So that's why in the strategic management of our structure for learning, let's try to redesign synchronous and asynchronous. Let's try to redesign synchronous and asynchronous. When we talk about synchronous, that is self-paced. When we talk about asynchronous, that is a self-paced, meaning the students are learning on their own. And in synchronous, that is your live class. That is the live class that you are giving, like what we are doing now. We are doing a live class. We are doing a live interaction. But the question is, how can we design intentionally? Ano yung mga activities na dapat pwede sa synchronous? Ano yung mga activities na pwede sa asynchronous? Asynchronous activities must be activities that entails high cognitive participation. So, for example, if you want the students to solve a problem, if you want the students to answer an exercise, you do it asynchronously. If you want the students to make a lesson plan, if you are teaching education, you do it asynchronously. Do not do it in a synchronous class. Usually that's the problem, Usually that's the problem that I see, in some of the schools that I visited. That what they are doing is that they ask the students to answer their quiz synchronously in 1 hour. What will happen if the students cut off in the middle? What will happen if the students lose internet connection in the middle? What if the students have a power interruption in the middle? The students cannot answer your quiz. And that will entail another stress to the students. Kasi kahit hindi lang ma-open yung cellphone nga nila, nagpapanik na. How much more that they cannot finish their test in that hour given. Not all were blessed with not all are blessed with a high-speed internet connectivity. That's why synchronous class is not for cognitive participation. Synchronous class is not for cognitive participation, but synchronous class is for personal participation. You conduct synchronous class to ask the students how they are. That's the synchronous class. Synchronous class is for class kamustahan, for the summary of what they have learned, for clarifications of the modules, and for clearing out of things, but not to discuss, because you cannot finish everything in 1 hour. You imagine your lesson for the whole week, you will just quiz it in 1 hour and 30 minutes. How can you do it? You do the talking, you do the monologue. But is it an assurance that the students are listening? Is it an assurance that, yes, you have a stable internet connection? Or for example, me, I'm talking here. Yes, I have a stable internet connection. But on your end, what happened? Baka ikaw, wala kang internet, baka mahina yung internet connection mo, at saka, yung mga sinasabi ko dito, para ang yung naririnig mo lang is ing, kasi mahina yung internet connection mo. Let's try to be realistic as teachers now. Let's try to be realistic. Meaning that let us think about not only of ourselves, but let's try to be contextual to our students. That's why usually I always begin my class with a Google form. What is that Google form? I ask them the bandwidth of their internet connection using the fast.com. Ilalagay, 7 Mbps, 5 Mbps. Anak ko, 7 Mbps, 5 Mbps. Nang nakita mo na yan yung mga nang nakita mo na 7 Mbps, 5 Mbps lang yung kanilang yung kanilang internet connection, do not ask them to turn on their camera all the time. Kasi alam mo na 7 Mbps at 5 Mbps lang yung internet connection, you ask them to turn on their camera all the time. You ask them to turn on their camera the moment that they arrive in your Google Meet and towards the end of the Google Meet. And then the moment that you ask them a question and then they will reply, that's the time that they will turn on their camera. But do not ask them to turn on their camera all the time, given that they have 5 Mbps or 6 Mbps. Diba? Let's try to be realistic as teachers. I myself is ideal at the onset of this online teaching. I do not want that the students are turning off their camera. Last year, they turn on their camera. Turn on ng camera. After a minute, after 5 minutes, out of my 40 students, ang natira, 35, 30. Ano nangyari? Disconnect. Disconnect. Siyempre, kasi kakarga na lahat na video ng mga classmate nila kasi they turned on their camera. Kakarga. That's why, let's try to be realistic, in terms of what we implement in our online class. And then sa synchronous class, mag-discuss ka. Okay, class, our lesson for today is this, matter, or you're listening, or the following examples of matter, or solid, gas, or liquid, and then, okay, class, our lesson is done. Do you think the students learn something about that? That you do the monologue? It's not. That's why all of the content must be in the asynchronous. That it is self-paced, self-paced learning. Because not all are blessed with these affordances of online teaching, of online learning. So how can we redesign, How can we redesign synchronous learning? Synchronous learning is to process learning. You summarize the module. You ask the students what they have learned from the module. What are the big ideas that they have learned from the module? You provide additional input only when needed. But do not give all of the input. Kasi usually when I take a look, of course, outline, of course, syllabus of teachers, most especially in college, prelim pa lang, sobra 30 yung learning outcomes. Online class tayo ngayon. Babaan yung mga learning outcomes. Bakit ang dami nito? Is this achievable? Mag-discuss meaning of education, types of education, history of education. Isa-isa discuss meaning, type of education, history of education. Tingnan natin after a semester, ganito kakapal yung libro. Tingnan natin kung kailan, ano lang yung matatapos mo, if that is the case. That's why planning for learning is very crucial. What needs to be included? What are the things that the students need to learn? Dapat yan lang, So, ito lahat, nangyayari to sa synchronous class. That you plan for learning. Okay, class, for next week, this is our module. So you discuss, you explain the activities. Okay, class, you will be making an infographic. The deadline is this, the rubric is this. So, wala nang tanong in the middle of the week kasi you clear out already the instructions of the assignment. Kasi minsan, kapag hindi mo na klaro, synchronously yung assignment, doon magtatanong, Miss, ano ang size, Miss? Miss, ano yung font size? Miss, ano ang size ng bond paper? Imagine 40 students in a class. Multiply by 6 or 10. Isa-isa, magtatanong yan sa'yo. Tingnan natin kung may buhay ka pa. Another, asynchronous. So these are, this is how we redesign asynchronous learning. It must be project-based, problem-based, collaborative learning, independent study, service learning. Sa asynchronous, you can do a lot, whatever you want to. Project-based yan, problem-based. You can ask them to answer a puzzle. You can ask them to make an essay. You can ask them to make anything asynchronously. And asynchronous learning is also a time that the students can unleash their creativity because they are not forced by time. They are not forced by time. You imagine yourself na lang as a teacher. For example, ako yung principal, sasabihin kita, Miss Diaz, gumawa ka ng lesson plan. Dito sa harapan ko, ngayon din, gagawa ka ng lesson plan? Will your creativity come out when you are forced? Of course not. Of course not. Your creativity will not come out when you were forced. That's why always consider this. In designing your lessons in an online class, you consider learner access. Are my students blessed with internet connectivity? Are my students blessed with the technology tools? Are my students blessed with the resources, with the application? The learner autonomy. Are they fast learners? Not all students are fast learners. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are working also, given this pandemic, because their parents do not have a work, and then they need to work in order for them to finish their studies. And then the learning task, no? The learner task, meaning the amount of task. For example, papagawa ka ng video, pero good for 1 hour lang. Anak ko, papagawa ka ng video, good for 1 hour lang. Magunus dili ka. Hindi yan matatapos. Ikaw, pag gagawin ko ng video, good for 1 hour, kaya mo? Of course not. That's why, let us be considerate in terms of the activities that we are giving to the students. Minsan yung nangyayari pa is this, no? Minsan yung mga nangyayari pa is this. May online exam, no? May online exam sa Google Form, for example, or sa Moodle, or sa Google Classroom, may online exam. O magpapa-Zoom pa, o magpapa-Google Meet pa, o mag-Google Meet sabay yung online exam. Kasi dapat, sir, dapat may proctoring, o proctor, open lahat na camera. O, dapat makita ko, may kasama ka ba dyan sa room? O sige. O. Pero, di mo naman alam kung ilang tabs yung naka-open sa Google Chrome. Hindi mo naman alam kung ano yung kinaka-copy-paste sa Google Chrome. Yung mukha lang nilang nakikita mo, pero yung dito sa screen, di mo nakikita. Para ke? Diba? Para ke? Para ke that you did a proctor? Para ke that you cannot see what they are working? Minsan, I know of one school, naglalagay dito ng cellphone para makita ni teacher yung ginagawa ng anak sa screen. Not all are blessed with gadgets. And then, ikaw lang yung teacher na papasuffer sa sarili mo. Kasi, titingnan mo dyan sa Zoom isa-isa, ano bang ino-open yan? Ano ino-open yan ito? Ay nako, minsan mga ginagawa natin katawa-tawa. This is the time that we need to teach our students academic integrity. This is the time that we need to teach the students the culture of trust. That we trust them, but in return, they need to be responsible. They need to be in return be responsible. Sir, one of the perennial problems now is cheating. Sir, one of the perennial problems now is academic integrity. Kahit ano pa yung gawin mo as teachers, it seems that we cannot prevent cheating. It seems that we cannot prevent cheating now. See, sir, okay na lang yan talaga, sir. Kapag cheating na lang ganyan. My dear teachers, you did your part. It is the students themselves who will suffer if they cheat on themselves later on. You deliver your instruction. You did your part. But it is on their end na lang. On if they cheat themselves. So it is not you who will suffer. It is not you who will suffer. It is them at the end of the day. So you do that, no? You do that as a teachable moment to the students to remind them that this is a time to learn to be responsible. And that decisions will affect not only their lives in your class, but that decision will affect their future. If only then that they listen to you. Kasi minsan, syempre, dyan parati yung pagsisisi. Wala namang pagsisisi na nangyayari sa unahan. Palagi nasa hulihan yung pagsisisi. Hindi ba? That's why, my dear teachers, no, one study in all about emergency teaching, that student success depends upon having a strong sense of the teacher's virtual presence. That you need to let the students feel your presence. Let's try to go back to the different building blocks of online learning experiences. The content experience. What are the readings or videos that you are giving? But do not only end there. Kasi usually we end there with the content. We always end there with the content. Bigay ako ng handouts, okay na yan. Bigay ako ng mga screenshot ng libro, okay na yan. Remember, meron pang different building blocks of an online learning experiences. Meron pang participatory, assignments and activities. Did you give assignments and activities? Meron pang interface experience. Saan yan gagawin ng mga bata? And then you have also social experience. How can the students interact with one another? So these are the different building blocks of online learning experiences. But we need to remember how learning happens. The first word that I will teach you, another word, I got this from the book of Hendrik and Kirchner, How Learning Happens. Mathemathantic activities. Ano to yung mga mathemathantic activities? These are activities that kills learning. Kasi minsan, we teachers are very ideal na eto talaga, this is aligned talaga with the learning outcome. Gagawa kayo ng essay, gagawa kayo ng research paper. Pero para sa estudyante pala, it will not work. It kills learning. Para sa iyo, that is appropriate with the learning outcome. But in terms of their multiple intelligences and in their learning style, that will not work. That's why we need to avoid activities that kills learning. Take note of the characteristics of your students. Are they all visual? Are they all artists? Not all are word smart. Not all are linguists. That's why we need to vary our activities so that the activities will not kill learning. That's why you need to bear in mind these learning theories. You use dual channels. Use both visual and verbal. Not only verbal, you give also visual information. Try to take a look at your modules. Are your modules only full of text and then there is no picture? So that is already you do no longer follow the learning theory about dual channels. Limited capacity. The students can only process in a limited capacity. So be selective with content. Do not give everything. Do not let the students read a lot. Because at the end of the day, if you try to ask them, they will not read. Because sometimes also at the level of presentation, the presentability of the material, and also active learning. You think how students will engage. Will they be engaged in reading a lot? Will they be engaged in reading a lot? Of course not. That's why as teachers, let's try to think about or to design mathemagenic activities. These are activities that gives birth to learning. These are activities that gives birth to learning. How to do that? How to do that, sir? Activities that is appropriate to the needs and interests of the learners. What is important is the learners. Being learner-centered, it is the learner that is very important and not us as a teacher. All of our decisions must be based on our learners, and that is very important. I would like to end my sharing with you this morning, with the different big ideas of adaptive learning. The first big idea is this. It's all about our learners. Well-being, inclusivity, and learning. Well-being is very important because if the students are not willing to learn, no learning will happen. If the students do not like us, no learning will happen. If they are demotivated, no learning will happen. Well-being is very important. The second is inclusivity. Yes, you have a good material. Yes, you have a good module. You ask them to watch a video. You ask them to do this and that. But be inclusive because not all are blessed with internet connection. Not all are blessed with gadgets. Be inclusive so that learning will follow. In that order, ha? Well-being, inclusivity, and learning. Second big idea. It's about the design, not the delivery. What matters is not so much whether we are online or face-to-face, whether synchronous or asynchronous, but how we design our classes. So, yes, no, you are always online. Yes, you are doing live class, but your live class is boring because you give always input. Yes, you are always present. You do not make an absent, but your module is boring also because do not have pictures or not was it was not designed so well. Minsan, bato-bato sa langit, baka parang love life yan yung module mo. Kung ano ka boring ng module mo, baka ganun din ka boring yung love life mo. Kidding aside. Kidding aside. Kasi minsan, no, we lose also our inspiration as teachers. Ganyan talaga. Sometimes we lose our inspiration as teachers, but you just keep going. Number 3, the third big idea is that it's about designing the learning, not dumping content. Sorry for the typographical error. That's dumping content. Designing learning versus dumping content is very different. For us kasi, kapag nakapagbigay ka na ng handouts kung saan nang pinanganak si Rizal, paano lumaki si Rizal, module na yan. Diba? Kapag ilinigay mo ng chapter 1 ng libro, okay, you have your module already there, you read that and then prepare for the discussion next week. It's not. Online class is how you design learning and not dumping content. That you give out a lot of readings, but you need to make sure that the students are reading that. And lastly, big idea number 4, it's all about our faculty and formators, our well-being after all our hard work. We will not be successful, we will not be efficient, we will not be effective if we ourselves are not well, if we ourselves are not inspired, if we ourselves are not happy. That's why always give time to yourself. Okay? Always give time to yourselves. Or dapat magtira sa sarili. Always remember that. Magtira sa sarili so that you can regain an energy to continue your vocation and mission as a teacher. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Sir Paul Ray, Mark, and Salsag. Madam, inyong salamat. A round of applause, please, to our speaker this morning. And of course, we would like to inform our participants. Of course, if you want to ask question, you can write that in our comment section. Or if you would like to ask personally or ask question to our speaker, you can press the raise hand button so that we can notify you ahead, and we will be recognizing you, of course, ahead. Okay, so to Sir Paul Salsag, thank you so much. I think all our participants can really relate on your presentation. Even I, of course, I'm also connected to Department of Education. I can really relate to what you are saying because, you know naman, as what you have said, alam ni teacher, kaano kahirap, especially on the field. And if you have, we would like to check, of course, if we have question here to our comment section. And here, of course, if you want to stay anonymous, of course, you can type your question at slide.com, which we are sharing it right now. Sir, before we entertain some of the question or while we are waiting question, of course, with our participants, first, of course, what are your messages, especially to our teachers, especially that are new to the department, especially they are starting or they are newly hired?
Newly hired teachers, do not be too ideal. And then, number 2, treat every day as a new day. Do not be too ideal and treat every day as a new day. Kasi sometimes, this millennial and Gen Z new teachers are always in a hurry. You're always in a hurry that you were hired in DepEd. You will enroll in a graduate school already come Saturday. Do not do that. You enroll in a graduate school after 3 years. You try to explore first the ecosystem of the Department of Education. Do not enroll in, you try to learn everything that is in the ins and outs in the department. Only then that you enroll. Kasi if you try to take a look, you are newly hired, and then ang daming pinapagawa sa iyo sa department, madami kang dapat matutunan, and then you enroll in a graduate school on a weekend, and then you will have reporting, you will have tasks in the graduate school, and then ano lang mangyari sa iyo Monday? That's why you try to hone your craft on that first 3 years in the department and always learn the ins and outs of the department. And do not be too ideal. Why? Not all that you've learned in theory cannot be applied in practice. Not all that you've learned in theory. Kasi that's the trend talaga kapag newly hired teacher. Ito talaga yung natutunan ko sa Prof. Ed. Dapat gagawin ko talaga to sa classroom.
Yeah.
Gagawin ko talaga to sa classroom. You try to take a look if it's applicable in your on your teaching and learning. It's applicable in your classroom or not. Sige, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. We have here questions from our slido.com. First question here is, what app or software did you use in your presentation? Because I myself am very interesting about your presentation a while ago. So our participants here would like to ask, what app or software did you use during your presentation?
Okay. So this is Prezi. You can use Prezi as you can use Prezi Video. You can download this an application, and then there is a free also. It can be there is also a free account. And then if you want into a pro account, if you want to pay, it's okay. So this is Prezi. You can upload your PowerPoint presentation, but you need to make sure lang the mechanics in making the PowerPoint presentation. Of course, dapat the text is big, and then dapat it's not full of words because syempre limited yung space niya kasi nasa gilid ko lang. If full of words siya, syempre hindi na siya mababasa. So dapat only the big ideas will be put there. So it's also beneficial because I can see the participants. For example, if you are teaching online in college, you can see your participants, no? Kasi ang hindi ka nagsi-screen share. Kasi this is sa video mo talaga. You will be using the camera of Prezi, and then automatic siya na mag-i-embed sa Zoom or sa Google Meet. It will work pala in all video conferencing applications. Okay? So that's Prezi. Sorry, yung Padlet hindi natin nagamit
Yes.
Because in the tawag nito, I will give.
That's why this is another question related to yes. That's why
because of the time.
Yes, that's why. So don't worry, maybe on the other time we could discuss more on Padlet.
Give an example.
Yes. Okay, so more questions. We would like to read, of course, some of the comments here. Sir, the interesting speaker. Thank you so much for the very informative discussion this morning. And another question: how does Padlet work?
Ito.
Yes, yon, sir.
Okay. So this is Padlet board. So this is one of my module in my curriculum development class. So we are now into various curriculum delivery modes, the different types of curriculum delivery modes. I asked them to identify the advantages and disadvantages of each. Okay? So face-to-face, modular distance learning, online distance learning, radio-based instruction. So this is more of parang so that it can be organized, their responses. So so Padlet board siya, face-to-face, modular distance learning, online distance learning. So siya? This is how Padlet board works. Pero meron pang you can use also Padlet board for getting to know each other. Like this, for example, I asked them to put a pictures of them and then to describe themselves. So who are they? So this is also an example of how Padlet board works. Kasi if you are handling classes and then will be meeting only 1 hour, and then that class is 40 students, so mahirap yung getting to know. You can no longer, and minsan hindi mo nakilala kung estudyante mo pala yan or hindi. So that's why I use this Padlet board so that I can see of who are my students? Kasi baka magkabanggaan kayo sa plaza or saan, hindi mo, ay, estudyante pala kita, no? So, that's how Padlet board works. So, Padlet board is also for free, no? You can use Padlet board also for free.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think there's no more questions in our slido.com and the same time in our comment section. So before we end, of course, this morning session, sir, any concluding words to our participants?
Again, no, the same lang. Please, do not be too hard on yourselves. No, let us try. Do not be too hard on yourselves. If there are things that we can no longer work on, if dead end na talaga, God will do the way. God will do the way. Do not be too hard on yourself. You work on your own pace and do not be overwhelmed. Take every day, one day at a time, and always give the time to yourselves. You cannot be innovative if you cannot give time to yourself. That's why design for learning and not only dump content. Design for learning and do not dump for content. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much to our first speaker this morning, Mr. Paul Ray and Salsag. So with that, I would like to give the certificate of recognition to our first speaker this morning. The certificate reads Philippine Institute of the 21st Century Educators Incorporated. Certificate awards the certificate of recognition to Paul Ray and Salsag, MA, in imparting his invaluable time, resources, and expertise as a resource speaker on the topic Emergence of a New Innovation in Teaching and Learning Process during the conduct of National Virtual Training Conference on Digitalization of Education for 21st Century Researchers and Educators. Accorded the 30th day of October 2021 via Zoom video conference. Conference Director Emijan P. Indonila Palmani, MEd LPT, National President, PICE-I 21. A round of applause, please, to Sir Paul Ray and Salsag.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Before we end,
okay, sorry. I was not able to give out my email.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, I will be sending na lang through chat my email.
Yes, sir.
Because someone messaged me also my email to ask my email.
Yes, okay. Sir, kindly please send it. Yes, there you go. The email address, of course, of Sir Salsag. And don't forget, of course, to answer about our evaluation form and our attendance for the day. So please kindly open your camera so that we can have a photo op this morning session. Everybody smile. Hello to Mom Virginia Arisa, Ma'am Lucy Teves, Sir Noel Bedis, Sir Bernie Mauro, good morning. Ma'am Elisa Marie, good morning po, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, hi, hello po. Everybody smile.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So we have two panels in our room. So for the panel 1, so just keep smiling, guys, kasi di natin alam kung saan tayo nabilong na panel. So ready, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay, so for the next panel, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, thank you so much to our participants. And we would like, of course, to remind our participants we will have, of course, our second session this afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with the topic Innovating Pedagogy and Strategy in Teaching in the New Normal, the what's and how's of making innovation project. So we'll see you again this afternoon. So of course, to our speaker this morning, we're happy to see you in person, probably on the next discussion on face-to-face. So thank you so much to everyone. Hope to see you this afternoon. God bless us all.
Thank you, sir.
Ako ang magkapakulit.
Ibasa tayo. Ito kaya magbabasa si Bobby. Kasi kami niya para sa oras.
Ay, tay, ako kay binabasa.
Ay,
Babasa ko ito.
no, for teacher to be great, you don't teach it. November ko, may sulat ka na? November ko, may Tuesday.
Anong color ito ng uniform? Pink? Blue?
Blue? We'll have this, we'll have this.
Na-attend ako ng mga seminar kaya I have a plan of taking the board by may datira di da ba bangin di ba ang dami sila at mga pandemic.
So, ito po yung ang pag-uling-ulang na ilagpuan na na po yung sumahong. Pantay lang.
Nagbit din ng president, nagbit din ng secretary yung mga hirap ko ang head. Yung kumarin, yung mga tao din ang kapakaari.
Kaya naman nangyari sa surgeries dito ng doktor.
Pag doktor, hira, himangtin kong nagdo-doktor naman. Kung manaanay. Tingnan ha, ako na attender.
If you are